that's all. Before that no Forest play. Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast, hosted by myself, Greg Oram. Unfortunately, no Richard Spray with us today. He, of course, will be back with me very soon. Today's guests are NFFC Australia's Scott Terry and Raf, the Random Pundit. Right, here we go. Forest head to Denmark tomorrow night, 1-0 down from the first leg against FC Midtjylland. And the big question here isn't just how Forest get back into it, it's who does it. With Tottenham coming up just 3 days later, Vitor Pereira is staring at a genuine balancing act. Do you trust the fringe players in the European knockout away from home? Or do you lean on your strongest 11 and worry about Sunday later? And layered on top of that is the same issue we keep coming back to. Where are the goals coming from? The performance levels haven't always been the problem, but the cutting edge absolutely has. So today we're going to break it all down, where the first leg was really lost, what has to change tactically, and which players need to step up if Forest are going to turn this tie around. This is Talking Reds. Let's get into it.
Back to Forest though by Murillo and then Anderson. Murillo back on the ball and gliding forward here, the big Brazilian number 5. Excellent run, there's the shot, oh it's in! Murillo back in the team with a brilliant individual goal. He's gone towards the near throw, got it quick, oh it's 2-0! They totally switched off Fenerbahce. It's the first corner for either team tonight, it's a good one, it's 2-1! And it's Igor Jesus again. Through Gibbs White. Jesus is there as well. Gibbs White then stumbled and puts it in. And the flag stays down.
It comes around very quickly. All of a sudden, we're at the second leg stage of the knockout against FC Midtjylland. We've chatted extensively about priorities and what's more important. But we have a game to preview. And like all Forest fans, it's a game that I really probably want us to win. In my heart of hearts, I want us to go through and still see if we can do something special in the European competition. But with Tottenham on the horizon and the Premier League survival being an absolute paramount thing on everyone's minds, we have to try and see what Vitor Pereira does tomorrow. A little bit earlier today, an 11 a.m. UK time pod. So if you are with us in the chat, please let us know you're here and do hit like on the video, subscribe if you can, all channels, X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And if you're listening on a podcast, podcasts are available now on Amazon and Pocket Casts, as well as Spotify and Apple and many others as well. If you are listening, thank you for tuning in a bit later. All right, Scott's with us and so is Raf. Scott, I'll come to you first. I guess I want to kind of just grab your kind of first thoughts on this time. You know, what is it you're hoping for when it comes to this tie and Forest progressing?
Yeah, it's. I've been sort of thinking about this all week, ever since obviously we had the Midtjylland game last week at the City Ground, which obviously we lost 1-0, played well, dominated, just couldn't get that goal, and then of course we went on to Fulham, where again we played well, dominated, couldn't score again, although we were pretty unlucky. So this game, if you remember last week, I actually did a little poll which we actually ran on the Forest Australia site, and at the time there was 3 options, and this was last week. Remember, this was for the first leg, and the 3 options were: we play the first string 11, we play the second string 11, or we play like a mixture of the two. And I as part of the voting, I actually voted then to actually play the second string 11. And yourself and Raf persuaded me. You said, no, for this first leg tie, bearing in mind that we've had a break beforehand, we should play, a strong 11, or certainly, very close to the first string 11. We did do that, and unfortunately, we still lost the game 1-0. I think for this game coming up, this second leg in Denmark against Midtjylland, I am now thinking I think we do go for that second string 11 team. We need to rest or give the opportunity to what we would call more the first 11, or the team that typically we see on a regular basis. I think we do need to rest them. We need to make sure that they are fit and ready for Fulham. For me personally, I think we're now at this point where the Premier League has to be the priority, so we can play a second string 11. What that second string 11 looks like as well, I've been looking online and trying to work out what I think that is, and we will probably come to that. But I think for this game, Europa League, and I'm sad to say it because it's been an absolute adventure for us, and there's a lot of people, a lot of the contributors that come on to the Talking Reds pod. They've been to Europa games. We've got Steve Battlemuch is going to this game as well. I'm not sure about some of the other guys, but it's been an adventure. It's been exciting. It's been great. But I just feel that we now need to be focusing on the league, and the 11 for this game should be our second string 11. And I can elaborate a little bit on that after, but that's my thinking. Focus on Fulham. Midtjylland is our second 11 side.
Yeah. We definitely need to fight. Well, we played Fulham obviously, and we got the 0-0 draw. We need to do better than that on Sunday. Raf, I'm going to come to you and ask you the same thing, just kind of throwing into the mix before you do come in. Vitor Pereira said post-match Fulham that he had hoped to have got a 2 or 3-0 lead against Midtjylland in the first leg in order to go there tomorrow night with that kind of cushion. He doesn't have that. He's got a 1-0 deficit. He did say he'd make changes. Where are you on the match and the competition in general now, buddy?
Well, everyone knows it's kind of been Europa first, League second throughout the whole season. And it presented something unique for the last 2 decades anyway for us, which is just so exciting. But, slowly the kind of balance of what is important has kind of been doing this. And for me, after Fulham and what the table now looks like, for the first time, the league now outbalances Europa for me. And it's I've been probably the last to get there, but even I am there now. And I do that for a bit of logic as well. And it's what's the goal out of Europa? So, right, is it winning it? And if it's winning it, which is exceptional, gives us a trophy. Don't get me wrong, I would literally cry so much if we did. But we would be facing Champions League next season. And you've just seen what has happened to a whole lot of our clubs that are at the top end, right, that have got far better squads than us, that got absolutely murdered in the round of 16. And how much we've struggled in the league this season, we will struggle even more. And potentially, if we haven't got relegated this season, possibly get relegated next season for the Champions League. So if we're not aiming to win it, then what's the aim? Is to get as far as we possibly can, but at the detriment of the league. And that doesn't make sense unless you're trying to get money. Now, if we're trying to get money, then there's about 15 to 20 million extra in euro for getting further and further. A little bit more if you kind of win it, but not much more. And we're already slightly behind. If you watch our financial show, we're already a bit in deficit anyway. So we're going to be selling before 30th of June. And the people that we're selling, the margins that we're going to get, the extra 10 million isn't worth risking getting relegated for, because that in itself is worth north of 85 million quid anyway if you get relegated. So if it's a money thing, then that doesn't make logical sense either. So I'm sadly getting to the realization that sod it. It's great for great memories, but if we can stay in the Premier League, go back to playing once a week, there's no reason the fact that we can't get a top 8 next season and more organically get ourselves back into Europe. So that's a really long-winded way of coming around to, actually, if we win, great. If we don't, fine. Let's just focus on the league. And I'm not going to shed any tears of going out at this stage.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel the same. Pat Brett in the comments doesn't. He says Brian Clough, the greatest football manager of all time, never binned off a game in his life, go to win every single game. That's fair, but I would also say as well that maybe he didn't find himself in the position we find ourselves in when we're battling to stay in the top flight. Anytime Cloughie was playing European competitions and so on, we were flying. We were comfortable. We were fine. And I know that he always put his strong team out. At a different time, though, Pat. And I think you've got something in what you're saying. I hear you, but it was a different time. You know, sometimes teams won the league with 14 players. Do you know what I mean? It was a different time now. Football's moved on, and ultimately the reward of Europe is great, but not at the detriment of losing your Premier League place. So I'm kind of with you two. I'm definitely thinking it's got to be a second string side tomorrow and see what happens. I mean, I wonder how much Vitor Pereira's comments maybe riled them up a little bit when he said, "Oh, I wanted to get a 2 or 3-0 win." You know, that might have just rolled them up a bit. I mean, they clearly are a bogey team for us, and no matter what we've done in Europe, whether we played a strong team or a support team, we've slipped up too many times in Europe. So it's been a hard thing to balance and a hard thing to manage. Team selection really is going to be the next part of the conversation for us to go through. And I've put together a few teams for us to chew the fat on. This one I put on. Obviously, we're thinking Cunha's injured, so this is a kind of a bit of a second string 11 with 1 or 2 first teamers, because obviously we can't just play a complete second string, I don't think, unless you start bringing the academy kids in. And I think that he won't. I don't think he'll do that. So I'm interested to get you two commenting on this. I'll read the team out and I'll come to you, Scott, in a second. In goal, I've put Sells. It's a 4-2-3-1. We've got Williams at left back, but it could be Aina. And in this team, I'm thinking Williams and Aina could do 45 minutes each. But then you've got Morata and Milenkovic at centre back. Zach Abbott comes back in at right back. He's played in right back for Forest in Europe and has been more comfortable in that role than what he was at Leeds away in the Premier. In the 4-2-3-1, you've got Dominguez and Yates in the midfield, McAtee in the 10, Bakwa on the left, Hutchinson on the right, Lorenzo Luca, for my sins, up front. But, you know, it is the squad that we've got. Scott, I mean, you're calling for a second string 11. Is it something like this you're thinking of? Is there anybody that I've left out that you'd prefer to see, or could you go with this?
I think you've hit a lot of the players, which certainly what I've sort of thought about as well when I was looking at this earlier. I think Morato. I think he's someone that should come in. Abbott definitely. Let's bring him in. The midfield is pretty much what I had, or I should say Dominguez, Yates and McAtee. Back was certainly been our probably our least preferred winger, but that's obviously he just looks sort of bereft of confidence. Let's just hope that a full game, or he can get a bit of freedom. Hopefully they just sort of Pereira just says, look, mate, just go out there, just do the best you can, just really rise up to the challenge. Interesting that you got Luca up front as well. I mean, he scored that goal. He scored that goal at Leeds. I think it was in his first game, but since then he hasn't looked great. But literally, I kind of feel like we need to put him there. We need to save Jesus. We need to save Taiwo. I think Hutch is sort of. I think he's dropped down the pecking order slightly. We saw Ndoye in the game against Fulham, very unlucky to be offside. So I think Ndoye, you can use Ndoye either as a winger. I mean, we may come on to it a little bit later as well, but because of his pace, is he someone as well that could potentially you could play up front with a striker as well to try and utilise his pace potentially, with an out-and-out striker. Williams, I think your point around playing both Williams and Aina, giving them 45 minutes each, because obviously they are our absolute number one fullbacks. So to give them both, sort of 45 minutes, let them do what they can do, but then play Abbott as well. I was looking at. I'm not sure whether we've even got any other centre. Obviously we've got Murillo, but I'm thinking we've got Milenkovic there. We play Morato. I'm not even sure if Bolly. I was trying to find out the full Europa squad. Is Bolly's not in there? Okay, yeah, because I kind of thought he could be someone we could leverage, but it's. I think what you've got there is about right. Whether or not we want to play Sells, I know he's only just come back, from an injury. He's played a couple of games now. Whether or not we want to protect him, but to be honest with you, because he hasn't played many games, I kind of feel like we should continue with Sells in goal. We could potentially look to include maybe Angus Gunn, but I think Sells should be there just to give him some more game time. So I think what you've got there is pretty much it. Whether you'd go Milenkovic or you go Murillo, but I think that there what you've got is round about. I think the 11, which I personally feel that we should go with. Rest our key first 11 players, and those ones which we do play, try and give them limited minutes. I think we've got those about right.
Okay, the next one I'll come to you, Raf. On this is a back three with similar players, albeit one or two differences. This has got Sells in goal. This is the back three with Morato, Milenkovic, and Abbott as the right-hand sided centre back. It's got Bakwa as a wing back on one side. I put him on the left. I put Williams as the wing back on the right. This has got a midfield three of Dominguez, Yates, and Sangare coming into this team just to kind of give a little bit of glue and solidity and direction to it. And then you've got the two with Luca and McAtee playing off him. So this is still pretty much a second string, albeit it's littered with 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-ish, maybe 4.5 first team, as you would say. What do you think about this, Raf? Could he go with the back three and could it be this?
I mean, he could do, but I mean, you're starting to do round pegs in square holes a little bit in this, and that worries me, and that's where it really starts going Pete Tong. In Bakwa, when he's on it, and he has previously kind of played as a wing back, but he's not firing all cylinders at the moment.
You could put Ndoye in there as a wing back, for example, instead, though.
You could do, but that's not using the best out of Ndoye if you're going to use him, and it's going back to how Dyche and everyone used him, and you could see the fact that that's not getting the best out of him. For me, it's interesting as well, because if we think back to Midtjylland, who were the players that were rested out of the first 11? There were 3. There was Williams, there was Milenkovic, and Sangare.
Yeah.
Now, that unfortunately was 2 games ago. So you play Fulham, you play this, and that's then at a 3-game red mark, which Vitor said 2 games is not a problem, 3 games is a problem. So that also doesn't help us. But what I would say is players that have not had game in, game out, that didn't even go into that break knackered for a bit of a break for some training, and then we saw these 4 games. So I would start Taiwo. He needs reps.
Well, you can't start him here because he's not in the squad.
Oh, God, he's not, is he? Yeah, no, sorry. So Taiwo can't start. So I guess it is going to have to be Luca that's up there. But Dan Doy, he needs reps. You saw he came on, he got some confidence. There's no better situation than, don't get me wrong, Midtjylland were very high in the league, but you could see the fact that we are better than them. We are better than, we just can't score. So, from that perspective, that's 2 factors. I'd get Dan Doy, so hopefully he could bag a goal or at least play really well again. So he's on a crest of going into Spurs. Again, you can pull him at 70 minutes, 65 minutes and sub him so that he's kind of still fresh. But I would definitely start him. When you start ladening Abbott and Morato in together in the back line, that spells danger. And what I would go back to is if Midtjylland score, we're done, I would say. Because where are we getting 3 goals from? Like, that's really not happening. So we really need to keep a clean sheet, which is why I favour kind of a bit more of what you had in a formation before. And I'd play Murillo, I would play Milenkovic, I would play Abbott, and I would play Williams and Ola switching in 45 minutes because we can't play nets. And I would put Sells in goal. I would go nearly as strong as you can at the back and then rotate. And if you're doing that, then I don't really think, unless you go back 3, and if you're going to do that, you have Murillo, you have Milenkovic, and you have Morato as your back 3, and you have that as the back 3, and then give some sort of flexibility up top. For me, Sangare looked absolutely knackered before that break, and yeah, he didn't play in Midtjylland, but I would like to not have to waste his energy here. Now, I'm not in favour of trying to put players on to go rescue a situation and get it done from the beginning. So maybe there's a case that actually you put Sangare on for 45 minutes, right? You have Ndoye on for 45 minutes. You even might have Ando on for 45 minutes, right? And you have the back three or back two where M are definitely in there with or without Morato to make a three. And you go at it hard for the first 45 minutes, see where you are. And it might just be, if they're still 1-0 up and we've tried all of that, then you just pull people off and just go, do you know what? The juice is not worth the squeeze at this stage at half time. So we kind of adapt from there. But it's the kind of Bertels adage, put your best players out to start off with, see where you get to. Because if we bang 2 goals in, I know, well, we haven't done that anytime recently, but if we do for some reason, right, then that's a whole different kettle of fish at half time to manage. And you can start putting a back 3 in and 3 in midfield and start clogging everything up. But we do need to remember, Midtjylland are at home. They're not going to be parking the bus, I don't think, against us, because I don't think their fans will let them do that at home. So there's a bit more of opportunity for our best players to make an effect from the start, to grab the goals and do that. Because otherwise, they'll just start parking the bus more and more and more as time goes on. It'll become more and more difficult to score.
Okay. Well, there's another team, another couple of teams. This one I'll quickly go through. This again puts it into the 4-2-3-1, and I've mixed it up a little bit more with Sells in goal, with your back 4 being Williams and Aina in the fullback role, so strong as you can. Morato, Milenkovic as your centre backs. So Murillo resting, Dominguez Yates still in that midfield, and here you've got McAtee in the 10 still, Dan Ndoye on the left, Backward on the right, with an Igor Jesus up top. So this is again the 4-2-3-1 with a Jesus and maybe an Ndoye class as a first team starter, Williams, Milenkovic, Aina. This is a bit more 50-50 in terms of personnel, that maybe moves towards, not going out there just to kind of roll over. We're resting Gibbs White here. We're resting Sangare. I'm choosing Milenkovic over Murillo, but again, it might be that Milenkovic is the one that is rested because he's the one that maybe needs to have more recovery time. It could. These are just suggestions. So it's what it could be, what it could look like. I mean, again, it's all guesswork about what it could be and what it might be, because we're trying to look at the personnel that we've got. And when you look at the likes of Hutchinson, he could come on, and then you've got Anderson and Gibbs White and all the rest of them that could come on. That kind of takes me to the last team, which is back into a 3, but going super strong. So I'll come back to you guys on this, where you've got Sells in goal, Murillo, Milenkovic, and Ola Aina as the 3rd centre-back, which has been muted. Williams playing as the right wing-back, Ndoye playing as the left wing-back, Dominguez, Anderson, and Sangare in midfield, and then Igor Jesus with Gibbs White playing next to him. So this is as using all the strong first teamers. Okay, albeit in a 3-5-2, it could be that they get used in a 4-2-3-1, Scott. Is this too strong for you? And would you, is it a possibility that Aina could be the 3rd centre-back, or is that, again, round peg square whole time?
Oh, look, it is a pretty strong side, isn't it? And certainly that goes against, trying to pick more of a second 11. I think the midfield, I think you talked about it a moment ago. I think, we're going to see Dominguez. I would personally go Dominguez, Yates, and then McAtee as like the 10. Yeah, I think that's the triangle there in midfield that you've got. I think that is what we should go with. And then whether we choose, and the wingers, I think, it kind of really is, who's essentially who isn't in the first 11 as our wingers. Ndoye had a good game, as we mentioned. Backward, I think he should start. And then in terms of the defence, I mean, Aina playing as a right centre back. I'm not even sure. Has he played in that position before? Does that kind of leave us exposed a little bit? I think obviously when Cunha played, and now obviously he's injured, that back 3 that did look solid. So it's kind of like throwing another spanner in the works for us that we now can't play with Cunha in that back 3. This is pretty strong, both Murillo and Milenkovic in there. I think Morato should come in. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, Morato, I'm not sure he's in. He doesn't provide a lot of confidence with us. But again,
it's the one we've got. It's the option we've got. Isn't
that's
it?
right.
That's it.
Absolutely, you're spot on, mate. So I kind of feel like we need, if we do stick to it needs to be a second 11 or a close to a second 11. That defence there is essentially got three of our best defenders. Obviously with Williams, although Williams playing wing back there. So to me, that's pretty strong. I think Abbott comes in, Morato comes in, and then we just sort of pick and choose who goes around him. But yeah, the midfield you got there, I think, is what we should go with. I think the defence there as well. Give Williams 45, Aina 45, and then just rotate the wingers accordingly with Luca up front. Yeah, I think you got it right.
Okay, Raf, your turn.
With Milenkovic and Morato, we've seen it before, and it ends in disaster every single time. They don't have the mobility between the two of them to be able to deal with anything, so you can't have them as a centre back pairing.
Well, you can.
The issue is,
you can because they do play. They have played together. I agree with you, but you can, and because they have done,
you can, but it'll end in disaster. It'll end in disaster. Yeah, but it'll end in disaster. So you don't. We've done it before. It's ended in disaster. So he might do it, but it'll end in disaster. So you can't. They don't have the mobility to be able to. And Murillo. The reason why Murillo and Milenkovic work is because they are polar opposites, and one covers the other's deficiencies. Right. That's why they work. Whereas Morato and Milenkovic don't do that. Now, saying that, if you're going to bring Morato in for me, it's better in a back three, because Murillo doesn't have the maturity as a leader yet, but Milenkovic does. So Milenkovic can help Morato with keeping switched on because he has his mental lapses in his positioning. And Murillo can then tidy up when he does make an error and then fix that, as it were. So I would go potentially with a back three, but you have, and like I said, we've got to keep a clean sheet to have a chance. And also, I mean, come on, as central defenders, you shouldn't get knackered. Like playing a game every 3 or 4 games. You're not running the length of the pitch. Fullbacks, 100%, all you're doing is running. But central defenders, you're not, right? So from that perspective, I would play full strength 3, back 3, and then have Morato on. That gives the base. And that just says, look, us at the back 3 will keep everything tight as much as we can. The rest of you, please just go find a goal. Please just go find a goal and do it that way. What I would say is it's less ideal, is it means that the wing backs have got potentially even more work to do.
Who are your wing backs in that system with those 3? If it's Murillo, Milenkovic and Morato in the back 3, who are your wing backs, Raf?
This is the problem, is that I don't really know. It's kind of like I would actually put Williams and Aina in to start the first 45 minutes and go gung-ho. And then I would have Dan Doy up top with Jesus, potentially. And then I would probably drop Dan Doy back to being a wing back. And then get on Abbott being a wing back or something like that. I don't know. This is why it's a little bit more troubling. And as a fullback, at least... I don't know. Do you do more running as a fullback or a wing back? I think traditionally as a wing back, but the way that we use fullbacks nowadays,
fullbacks are overlapping so much and getting up and down that it's 6 of one and a half dozen of the other, isn't it?
Yeah. So so I don't. It's really, really, really tough, and I do think Gibbs White should try and stop Gibbs White playing. Like, not good luck in doing that. He will demand to play, I imagine. So I think he goes on for 45 minutes, but under the orders that he stays in the opposition penalty box and he doesn't drift anywhere else as well. Play the back 3 like that, and then I'd just go full strength for the first 45 minutes and see where we get to. But then sub everyone, and it depends who you sub, depending on how bad or good the situation is.
So you've gone from at the start being it's priority as the Premier League and second string, and now we talked it through. You're like, you know what? Let's go full strength.
45 minutes full strength, and then rest them, and then I don't think the defence need resting, so you can take 5 off from the front. Yeah, God, math 7.
Yeah, no, you're right. What we also have to remember as well is if it goes deep and we nick a goal late and we win 1-0, we're going to extra time, and we don't need extra time in this. That's the one thing we don't need. We don't need extra time. So look, we've just kind of like shared 4 different lineups.
How big the problem is. Like,
it's a big
imagine
problem.
trying to be Vitor and trying to actually get the balance right. He's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. I think probably from this situation, if it goes wrong, because everyone would have gone, "Oh, you should have done that." Like it's really difficult.
It also shows as well how the UEFA squad rules have affected us, because we effectively have a smaller squad because we can't fill it properly with the quotas that they ask for. So there's players that are getting left out. It means that you're having to go into round peg, square holes territory sometimes. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We've chewed the fat on possible teams. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on what you think a team should look like, who you think has to play, who needs a rest. Pat is a big supporter of Talking Reds, and has from day one always listened along and watched and commented, and I really appreciate you, Pat. Actually, thank you so much. And you're I've been reading some of your comments, and over time you're like getting more and more frustrated with Forest. There's nothing good to see, and it's very hard to support us at the moment, and so on. But you definitely want us to win every game, and I can't argue with that. Let's just hope that if we do win, it's not at the detriment of Sunday, because that is a huge match coming up against Tottenham. All right, quick break for cheese.
This episode of Talking Reds is brought to you by The Cheese Trader. If you love proper cheese and you love Nottingham Forest, then this is the place for you. From rich, creamy blues to powerful charcoal cheddar, The Cheese Trader has the flavour to match every moment of the season. Whether you're celebrating a big win or drowning your sorrows after a tough loss, use the code Talking Reds for 10% off every order. The Cheese Trader on Grape Lane in York, owned by Forest fan Stu Freestow. Proper cheese, proper passion. Find them online today and join the cheese revolution.
Stu Freestone is leading that revolution. Get your Gouda, get your Brie, get your specialty cheeses from the Cheese Trader in York. 10% off when you quote Talking Reds. Details in the bio. Okay, so we've chewed the fat on team. Now we need to kind of talk about where the goal's coming from. And that's something that we've been discussing non-stop. One of the first comments that came in this morning was from Matt Wooten. He says, "Morning all, would it be mad to put Silla in the squad at some point? I know he's young, but it's another striker to try." And he's referring to Lamin Silla, who joined the club from Olympiacos. He's a Gambian striker. He's only 19 years old. He's been a part of Warren Joyce's B-team squad since arriving at the club. And I guess with strikers being an issue and goals being an issue, Scott, I don't know much about him. I don't even know how he's got on. But, again, is that something you would be in favour of in terms of something different and us looking at one of our young players with promise?
I wasn't sure whether that was a typo when the chat wrote, but if he's a young guy in the in the junior squads then I think that's something which I was thinking of as well, is that we talk about Abbott coming through, and obviously Yates is a homegrown product as well. We're not seeing many other players come through, so this is good that someone we're seeing that from Dan in terms of this guy sort of coming through into the more senior, the senior level. I think from a striking perspective, what's the expression? The definition of madness is doing the same thing and expecting this and expecting a different result. I kind of feel like, and Raf just mentioned it as well, in terms of, do we need to just change things up? I mean, I've heard comments midweek around, should we play 2 up front, go to old school sort of 80s 4-4-2? Should we play, say, a Wonyi with Jesus with him? Should we play Dan Ndoye? We spoke around how Dan Ndoye, has pace and potentially could more play up front. So you have a target man, and you have someone maybe a little bit quicker that can play off him. I think, I do think, do we need to change things up and just try something a little bit different? Do we whether change the formation as to 4-4-2? Do we need to play a different striker up front with Jesus? do we need to think around playing a Wanyi with someone else as well? Because as a target man, he is big. I think when he did come on against Fulham, he was quite, very physical and sort of provided us that with a good target.
We can't for this game with the Wanyi. Remember, he can't play in this game. I mean, I get your point for the foreseeable, but just thinking about this game in the here and now as well. The two up top wouldn't involve a Wanyi, but it could involve Igor Jesus, and as Raf talked about, Dan and Doy. I mean, just quickly want to interject and say I've got some stats from FOTMob on Laman Silla for the under-21s in all competitions.
In the punch, not an option. We can't play him. He hasn't been at the club for 2 years. So
yeah, so there you go. So
21 has to have been at the club for 2 years to be valid on the under-21B list.
There you go. Then so that does that, which is why we can't play Jer Cunha in the original squad. He had to be named, and it's also why we wouldn't be able to call on Eric Da Silva Moreira because he's only been in the club for a year prior as well. So thank you, Raf. So his stats weren't that great anyway, if I'm honest with you. But the point is, I think people are trying to look at
Jimmy Sinclair.
Can we put? I mean, Jimmy Sinclair's he plays a fullback / wingback. Is there scope for you, Raf, that we academise tomorrow night and just let the boys go out and play their game?
45 minutes after the big boys have had a go. If the situation is Fuquaid at that stage, then get on the kids and let them have a crack. Might as well use the time for something to give them some experience. But there's no point absolutely flogging the first 11 for a full 90 minutes, even longer with extra time, with Spurs on the horizon if we're not guaranteed to be able to get through, I would say.
Even more of a case for
players, put them all on the bench, and at half time, if the situation is not there, then let them have at it. If we're fully in control and we've banged in 3 goals right on the night and not conceded any, then I might get one on or so as well, potentially, to kind of rest some legs.
Even the extra time is even more of a case for starting strong and changing at half time, because then if you've started weaker and you're thinking I need to bring players on to try and get something out of the game, there's a chance that they come on for 45 and it turns into an extra 30 minutes as well. So kind of negates the whole point of resting them, because
we saw that in the cup, Greg, earlier in the season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so goals and all the shots and all the goals we haven't scored has become the big buzzword. It hasn't been so much of a problem in Europe though, Raf. Igor Jesus has found the back of the net. We've talked quite a bit about why that is. But are you in favour of Jesus starting ahead of Luca? Let's talk about the striker on its side. I know we've done teams, but if we're playing with one striker, would you want it to be Jesus over Luca still at the moment to start?
I don't really know, because on one side, I'm just saying play the strongest 11, 45 minutes. But, I mean, he has been playing football solidly for about 2 years now without a break. And, no summer breaks, really, to be honest, at all. Came halfway through a season anyway to us and then just carried on. It depends how close Wood is to coming back, I would say, is probably the key part of that conversation. Because if you can play Jesus for 45 minutes, then put on Luca, and then we can just say to Jesus that you just need to do Spurs, and then you've got, a week, 2 weeks break or something, because I don't think he'll be going away with Brazil. And then at that juncture, then he can properly rest, and I don't feel so bad about it. So as long as he's not going away on international, I'd give him 45 minutes. Hopefully Midtjylland will come out at us, which will give him space in behind. And why not? And I think probably Yates will be the one that has to play the full amount of time. Dominguez might get beasted for pretty much the full amount of time. Actually, McAtee. Put McAtee and Yates on for the full amount. Keep the back 3 on for the full amount and sub the other 5 basically at half time is what I would probably do.
Okay, Scott, what about you? I mean, when the striker option and the goals, etc. Igor Jesus, your man to start this one. I know we have mentioned Lorenzo Luca when we did the teams, but it just doesn't seem to have really showed us anything at all, has he?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good point. Raf is sort of talking about, starting strong, and then if we're not getting any change out of Midtjylland, then we change things up at half time and we bring on, the bench players. So I agree. Jesus hasn't had a rest for a long time. So for him to keep playing and keep doing all that running, then maybe we do start him, because he is our best forward at the moment, in my opinion. So that's maybe playing for the first 45. If he isn't doing anything, then we bring on Lorenzo Luca and see what he can do. But he does look a bit tired. I think I've seen reports, a few places, how he seems like he's struggling a little bit, in terms of his tiredness. So look, fair enough. Maybe give him 45 minutes. If we can then get a goal, we can get back in the game. Hopefully the tide will turn, and then we can go on from there. But I don't think we should play him for more than 45 in the first half.
Some interesting footage came out last week. Not quite sure when it was from. It may have been from before the Midtjylland game, because it had Jer Cunha in the video as well, and it looked like he was training. It was when the young supporter, who's just thankfully and wonderfully overcome a battle with cancer and leukemia, he was there to ring the bell with the squad, which was a really emotional, wonderful moment to see. But I did catch Chris Wood, as many did, training, it seems. His return would be absolutely fantastic, Raf. And look, we can't put too much pressure on him, of course, because it would be, I think, a bit unfair to do that. Someone in the comments is saying, Colin Robinson, could Chris Wood be available after the 3-week break, especially if Villa have played probably in Roma? I mean, it's possible that, Wood's in the squad, so him coming back into the Europa squad, if we're still in it, is definitely something we can look to. Just quickly before I bring Raf in, thank you to Mark for the £2 in the pot donation. He wants to go full strength for 45 minutes, then evaluate. Are we putting too much pressure on Chris Wood as and when he comes back, Raf, or is it literally we got to pin our hopes on the Woodsman getting some goals for us?
That's what he's paid for. And he's going to put the pressure on himself. He's been out. He must have been suffering watching what has been going on this season. I don't think we have to put pressure on him. I think he will be running out there and putting pressure on himself to try and rescue the situation as much as he can and start doing what he does best.
That's a fair comment. It is what he's paid for. And ultimately, it feels like we've just been clinging our hopes onto so much this season, game by game. And that also extends to hoping that other teams lose. And at the weekend, we ended up, as you were, with everyone getting a draw. And looking at Spurs against Liverpool and them getting the late goal was deflating. And I hate being in that position when it comes to the Premier League. So let's just kind of turn our attention back to a little bit about Sunday coming up, Scott. The players will be travelling back from Denmark, win, lose or draw. Well, it won't be draw, obviously, but it'll be win or in the Europa League or out the Europa League. They've got travelling to do, get back, rest and recovery, and then travel to London as well. Have we made too much of this whole players' tiredness thing? Because I feel like it's been latched onto by everybody. There's been times when they've looked leggy, but they damn well got fit under Sean Dyche. Surely the fitness that Sean Dyche has put them through should hold them in good stead. So if he did go full strength on Thursday, they should have it in their legs to go on Sunday. Are we now just getting far too worried about this whole fitness thing, or do you think there's something in it?
Well, it's interesting you say that, and Raf mentioned Gary Birtles earlier as well. Gary Birtles, whenever he comments on players and their fatigue, he talks around, when during his playing days, they would be potentially playing, twice a week, and they'd have many more games over the course of the season than they would play in many more games. And feels a little bit like some of the players these days are maybe sugarcoated a little, wrapped in sort of cotton wool in terms of the amount of minutes that they play. I think that it potentially, we do maybe over egg it a little bit in terms of what it is that the players have to go through. I think travel as well. Obviously the team are travelling to Midtjylland, which is in sort of central Denmark. Although I'm sure that I would imagine they'd fly there, but still, they're flying there, they're flying back, and so they're missing out, on some time in terms of resting, and also then time on the training pitch as well. But I think maybe there is a little bit too much made of it. But this is sort of the modern Premier League and European footballer is that they do this amount of travel. They have 2 games to play during the week. I mean, I'm keen to understand. How does this compare to other teams? We see other teams saying that they also have 2 games to play in a week. Can they fall back on the same sort of reasoning which we can with Forest? So I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe these guys, they're very fit. They've got excellent training staff, excellent backroom staff that can kind of bring them back. From a tough game, make sure they're in the best possible physical condition for a game, even if it is sort of 3 days time. So I think maybe we do make a little bit much of it. Yes.
About you, Raf? I mean, Spurs on Sunday, they've had their huge injury problems themselves. They played tonight at home in the second leg against Atletico Madrid. I don't think they'll come through that tie. I mean, when you look at that tie tonight that they play, is there anything that you're hoping for? Are you hoping that they get rolled over and crushed again? Because I'm a bit worried they might bite into that 1-1 at Liverpool a bit much and say that's our momentum grabber there. That's where we can turn it around. So are you hoping they get crushed again and they get rolled over? Or is it the case of, listen, just don't worry about any of that? When we play them, let's worry about what we do.
I think it's just like focus on what we do. But I do think, with the timings of all that travel, and it is different from the home game where we're home, this is away. And I don't actually think in that schedule there's any time to really do tactical training. I'm pretty sure it'll just be travel, recover, travel, go. Yeah. But for me, I'd like Spurs to get like 2 goals back or something and dangle the fact that it's possible, and then go even harder about trying to get the win and keep everyone on for really long, and then get smashed at the end by like 3 goals and just destroy their morale right at the end. I mean, that would be perfect, so that they've run themselves into the ground and then not gone through with a crushing mental blow at the end. That would be my ideal.
Or even go through, keep them in the competition, because the next 8 games,
if they turn that round again, I fear for that being a momentum changer for them. Yeah. So no.
It is. It's and this comes back to the whole question about mentality, guys. Vitor Pereira has been leaning into quite a bit, and I think he's right to say, look, football largely is about the mentality, the belief system. And I was on young Harry Scarf's Tottenham podcast. I recorded last night. I think it's going to be going out, and I was on giving the Forest point of view, talking about the game coming up, about how our season's gone, and looking at their season as well. We've had a rough time this season with the managers, the off-the-field stuff, being where we are in the league. But I think Spurs have rivaled us for the kind of catastrophe that they're going through. He asked me who I thought would be the one to go down with Burnley and Wolves. And I hold my hands up. I did say I think it would be Forest, because I've been saying that. I don't want it to be. Please don't come at me and say you want Forest to go down. I think I'm bracing myself for the fact that it could and might happen. I don't want to talk about ex-managers, but how confident are you now, Scott? I mean, Vitor Pereira coming in had a record in his first 10 games at previous clubs of winning good amount of games in that 10-game spell. We need him to win games in the Premier League, really, rather than, he's got 1 win, which was Europa. And since then, he's backed up lately in the Premier League with 2 defeats, 2 draws. We need that first Premier League victory against Spurs on Sunday. How confident are you now with the last 8 games in the Premier League about Forest survival chances? Am I being a little bit too negative? I'm just worried about where the goals are coming from. I think that's our Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that is that sort of concern is shared by a lot of Forest fans at the moment. We're all seeing the performances. We're seeing us playing, sort of decent footy, creating lots of chances, and we're seeing all these stats around how many chances we're creating, but we're not converting them. In terms of Pereira, I mean, his record base, since he's joined Forest, and then when he was with Wolves as well, you looked at his stats there. He's not won many games at all. I mean, he hasn't won any Premier League games with Forest since he's joined us. And he didn't win a lot with Wolves, but let's not focus on what he did with them. I think look, we absolutely we need to get back to winning. We need to try and convert these chances. I mean, it's pretty tough, Obviously, we've done this to death in terms of the amount of managers, 4 managers this season, the amount of changes, the different voices which the players are probably hearing in the dressing room. But it's really just the time where we almost, I think we need the senior players, the senior leaders, and when I think around that in terms of the team, we're seeing Morgan really come into the fore. Sometimes in the huddle before the games, you're seeing Morgan really sort of trying to G the players up, which I think is really positive. We need those strong personalities in the team to sort of be really sort of trying to galvanise the players, galvanise the team, sort of really sort of push forward, because I think there's only so much at the moment Pereira can do because he's got such little time. And when we talk around striking options, we're talking around, could he play up, not necessarily for this game, but say for Spurs, could he play Taiwo up front and have Jesus playing off him? Could he play Taiwo up front, have Ndoye playing off him? There are a number of options there, but we've got so few games to try those options. And then if it doesn't work, then straight away, I'm sure the press will be on to Pereira about them. So it's just, we've got such little time, and Pereira is trying to come up with something a little bit different to try and get us over the line, to try and get us to score these goals. So it's tough. It's really tough, but it's only been in the last week. I think when I was on the pod last week, and it's starting to feel like we're really up against it. And I'm usually glass half full, very positive. I really want to be positive, but I do worry about our ability to stay in the Premier League this season. We talk around West Ham, we talk around how they're playing, the fact they've got goal scorers in their team, got Bowen, and then is it Somerville as well? So they've got goal scorers there. Spurs, I just feel that they will win 1 or 2, or they'll just have a little bump and they'll do well. And I'm still wondering where our goals coming from. I feel like we just got to try something a little bit different. Whatever that is, whether we change it, we go 4-4-2, we change it up front, we play, a target man with someone just playing off him. But I think something has to change. But I'm also starting to become more concerned around us staying in the Premier League.
It's fine margins. On Sunday, the Ola Aina rattled the bar with a shot, and that's an inch or two. And Dan Ndoye was great when he came on, offside by a heel, and he broke through and finished nicely. So he could be unlocked, and he's been up and down in everybody's favourite list this season. Colin Robinson says, is it fitness or less time training for an opponent, or are we just not scoring? I think it's a mixture of all of that. Steve-O mentions Declan Rice for Arsenal. He plays every game. He says he's knackered, but there's no data evidence of a performance drop. Steve-O also goes on to say that Forest's best performance was Spurs at home after the away trip to Utrecht. We also beat Brentford away after Thursday at Braga. So, yeah, we have come back in games following Europe, Raf, and we have picked up results. So there's plenty to be optimistic about. In terms of the relegation battle, just before we finish, where are you now? Has your thoughts changed? Are you feeling a little bit more squeaky bum time?
Yeah, I try to empathise. Put yourself in the place of West Ham and Leeds and Spurs. So they've struggled all season. Now, Spurs have got light on the horizon. They've got 1 million players out, and some of them should be coming back, right? So they've got light on the horizon. Leeds are at maximum. They are absolute maximum. And they haven't been losing, but they haven't been winning, and they're still not away from the drop. Actually, they're closer to the drop than they've been in a little while, I think, now at the moment as well. So, and if you keep going hard and you play the way that they play, they're going to start picking up injuries, and they're going to start tailing off at the end of the season because they are absolutely knackered. So they'll start coming back. West Ham have got Somerville injured. There's no guarantee with the calf how quickly that fixes and when he comes back. But they've got new strikers that have come in that take bedding time. And yeah, they're playing okay, but they've just hit a crest. They're all looking at us and they're going, right, what's going to change at Forest? Oh, wait, they've got their 20-goal-a-season striker coming back that they haven't had all season, and they're going to have him for the run-in. Oh, crap. That's what they're thinking. So actually, we need to flip our mindset massively. We've got the biggest game-changing situation, along with potentially Spurs and people coming back. If you're Leeds and you're West Ham, you are not happy at the lay of the land of us getting back an absolutely elite striker in the Premier League. And if you look at the missing piece, we are creating loads of chances. It's not like we're not creating chances. Yeah. We're not just you just literally plug in the last piece, which is Wood, and you start banging in goals, and you just win a couple of games, and then you're absolutely fine. So as long as Wood is okay, and he can come back, and he's in any type of form, 80-something goals. The Woodman was scoring 1 in 3 chances. 80-something chances. Even if half of those were his, that's 40 chances. He would have bagged like 12 goals or something off the back of that, right? We would have won loads of games. So I'm pinning it all on Wood coming back and him being fine. Without that, I start worrying. But with Wood coming back, I actually think all of the other teams around us brick it.
Well, let's hope so. I'm looking at Spurs, the fact they've got Solanke. I think they've got a goal scorer there. Every team's got pros and cons, and it's going to be a case of who blinks last.
I think it might be Leeds. Actually.
You know what? I think you might listen. They haven't got out of it, and they're due a slump. They're due a proper slump.
They're at maximum. They've been at maximum for a long while. When you were away, I was just saying they're going to get injuries, and they are knackered, and they will get more knackered playing the style that they play.
Yeah,
and they've been at maximum of the way that they play. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was the force that got them the goals for a while. They've now dried up. Can't even score from the spot anymore. So is old Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming back? And if that's the case and he's not scoring, where are the goals coming from them?
It's also as well the big thing as well that I think is going to have an impact on this relegation is the re-emergence of Wolves. I mean, they are now playing very well. They've got something about them. They're playing for the manager. He's got them sorted. We all read the article about their lack of fitness at the start and how it took him time to get them moving. But, you know, they've got to play Spurs, they've got to play Leeds, and they've got to play West Ham as well. They're going to be at home to Leeds and at home to West Ham. They're away at Spurs, which means nothing because Spurs' home form apparently is the worst ever. And we hope that continues on Sunday. So, look, Wolves could be the cat amongst the pigeons in this relegation battle. All right. Thank you so much to everyone for being with us in the comments. As Peter says, please do hit the like and subscribe button, guys. Really appreciate it if you would. Thank you as ever, Peter, for that reminder. Okay, Scott, give us your game outcome prediction. Only the score prediction. What's the tie outcome going to be for tomorrow? Are we going through or are we out?
Oh, I mean, obviously we're one down on aggregate. I think we'll go there. I think we'll battle. I think we'll really try. I think from Pereira's comments, he will play a mixed side. So therefore, I kind of hate to say it. I almost feel like I don't want to say it, but I'm not. If we do go out, I'll be disappointed and I won't enjoy it and I won't be happy. But I think our focus has to be the league. Look, if it's a 0-0 draw and we lose 1-0 on aggregate, then fair enough, and we go out and then we can focus on the league. I don't like saying it. I feel it doesn't feel right saying it, but we're just in a horrible situation, and this is not where we wanted to be at this point in the season. It's nowhere near where we want it to be. We want it to be, doing well in the Premier League, doing well in Europa, thinking about winning Europa. But this feels horrible saying that. But if it's a 0-0 and we really try, well, actually, it'd be great if we scored a few goals, actually, just from a confidence and momentum perspective, that we can take that into the league. But I think I think the Europa is becoming a distraction, and we have to focus Premier League.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for being with us, Raf. game outcome for you? What do you think it's going to be?
I think it ends up being 1-1 on the night and we go out, but I think that will save our Premier League status in the long run by doing that. But it's really key that we wins. We'll come on to Spurs later, but in the week, winning Spurs is key because we've got 3 weeks afterwards, and to potentially be in the drop zone during those 3 weeks of the players looking at that is not good for training levels and everything else as well. Cool. Just before we go, I just wanted to say one thing, and I mentioned it back in December, but with everything that's going on with the club, with expectations and everything else as well, you see the mood when you're talking to people, you see what's on social media, when you're at the ground and talking to people, the mood is low, right? And when things are low, you've got to be really careful looking after yourself. Something I shared personally back in December is I lost my best friend very suddenly and unexpectedly. We had his memorial last Friday. Lots of mates flew from around the world. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, really kind of all together, doing various things. I was in a very low place, as you can imagine. And I didn't watch the Midtjylland game. I didn't watch the Fulham game, just because I knew in my mind I couldn't handle if things were going to go wrong with Forest and put myself through that. That doesn't make me any less of a fan. I still bleed Forest through and through. But at the same time, I'm looking after my well-being. And at the moment, if you've got a lot going on in your personal life, don't feel obliged or you're any less of a fan just because you duck out of the odd game, just because you know mentally it's actually going to be a little bit too much for you. And football shouldn't be that. It should be all about community and joy. So if you're struggling, don't feel the pressure. Go speak to someone, speak to your mates, but don't just suffer in silence and just look after yourself.
Thanks, Raf. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's an important message, and you said it perfectly. Really, you can't add to that. Just look after yourselves, guys. Raf is absolutely on the money with that, as he is with a lot of other things as well. All right, I think we're going out tomorrow night. 2-2 would be great because we score goals. I don't want it to be a drawn-out affair. I didn't like it when we got knocked out against Wrexham, but I'll tell you what, when the next round came up after that and we had the break, I actually thought, you know what, this is better for us to have that break. And I think if we go out now and we have that time to recover and get them on the training pitch with the manager, and maybe to kind of get his message across, his principles, that's crucial. When we play Spurs, if we can pick up a result that keeps us outside the bottom three, I think Raf's right. That's massive because it is 3 weeks until the next game. That's 3 more weeks for Woody to recover. 3 more weeks for us to maybe get him back into shape. He's already on the grass by the looks of things. He's already training. So, yeah, let's look at the positives. Let's get our head up and think, you know what? Woody coming back and these players fighting for Forest and fighting for the badge, there's every chance that actually that we won't be the ones that slip through the net. And Greg can shut the F up. See you soon.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.